If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Birth of ectoplasm, and then compared it to like childbirth, and there were it was very dramatic. A lot of mediums would convulse while they produced it, so it's this very bizarre topic.
Okay, guys, welcome back to a little interjected episode of the Grimerica show. We're sneaking this one in because we didn't get the bonus episode out because all hell went down, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But first, let me welcome Graham, podcast assassin, Dunlop.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going, man?
All right. This is for this episode is actually for Shannon Taggart, though. A fantastic chat with her about the search for ectoplasm and in her photography and seances and all kinds of cool stuff. We talked about the history of spiritualism and famous scientists and how they're spiritual, Ouija boards, orbs, shamanism. Fuck, it was a fun one.
That's right. Brody's first app?
Yeah.
That's right.
So this actually might even be on YouTube as a video as well. I think she's got some pictures that will pop in here.
Oh, yeah, I think
cool.
this is our
Yeah.
first video episode. Wow,
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And then the next one might not be because... Oh, no, I think they all are now.
I don't know. We might have. So we had to cancel Sundays. We had 2 recordings scheduled for Sunday.
Yes.
So this is for if people haven't heard the news yet.
We've had
here.
more than one person accuse you of trying to take me out so that you could fucking
I like that
take over Grimerica.
Oh, that's a good one. Turn into Grimerica?
Yeah. Which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
Geez, I've heard a couple people accuse your wife too, take you out. So you got a lot of enemies going on here.
Yeah, well, or the deep state.
The deep state? Yeah.
So I might as well just do
let's start from scratch because a lot of people haven't heard what happened.
Okay, so I was asleep.
Saturday night?
Saturday.
Actually, we were all online that night, right?
Saturday night. Yeah, that's right. I was in the studio talking to you guys
you were in
2
studio.
hours before that.
Really?
Yeah. I went in the house at midnight.
Did you have a gut feeling or anything like that?
No, I was just like, I'm tired. I'm going to go into bed.
Go into bed? Not
yeah.
Go to bed?
Go to bed.
Into bed.
Yeah. So I went to bed and
into bed.
I woke up. I wasn't sure what the fuck was going on. I don't remember hearing the noise, but Lisa right away was like, she thought a plane crashed. It was so fucking loud.
Really?
And I like it.
You didn't hear it.
It woke me up, but I didn't know what had woke me up.
Right. You kind of.
And she knew right away. She was like, she had woke up because she wasn't really. I was in a deep sleep. She wasn't.
Was she flipping out or?
Oh yeah, she was freaking. And so she had looked out. She woke up, heard the bang, looked out the back window, and seen the fucking cops tackling Buddy and dragging him off.
No.
Yeah. So she wakes up, and I'm like fucking looking out. There's a helicopter spotlight out in my backyard. The cops had already taken Buddy out of the backyard by that point, so I didn't see it.
Out of your neighbor's backyard?
Out of the neighbor's backyard by that point. So yeah, then I go look out the front window. And there's just fucking cops everywhere. Cops in my garage, in around the studio, in the garage, fucking all out in front of the house. Yeah, so
what were they all doing in here then if the guy had fucking escaped?
That's what I'm saying.
What?
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
That's what
we'll
I'm
get
saying.
to that.
I haven't heard you say anything.
Well, because it gets strange by the end of it. Actually,
oh fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't. So I'm purposely
we haven't really gone into too many details about this because we did kind of want to save a little bit of for the show. So I'm in the dark on a lot of this stuff, especially. So
then I go outside to see what the fuck's going on, and they're just like, "Get in the house and lock the door."
What?
So I come in and lock the door, and I'm like, I'm looking out my windows trying to see what the fuck's going on.
They wouldn't even let you come out and check out your thing?
No. So I'm looking out the windows, and I can see the garage doors open, and I'm like, well, is someone trying to break into the studio, or what's going on? So I look.
So just for people to know, like we have the igloo is a studio inside the garage.
Yeah, it's a walk-in freezer built in the corner of the garage.
Yeah.
So then Lisa's like, well, I heard a bang. Maybe it was someone kicking in the door and fucking trying to rob the studio. Like, so we're looking out, and I can see the doors open. I can see a bunch of flashlights in here. Like, okay, so I went over to the other window a little farther down the house. You get a better angle. And then I'm looking, and I can see a signal light, like just blinking in the garage through the man door. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I could see like where the garage door had ripped off and had fallen in. I thought that was the panels of the igloo. And I was like, fuck me, the studio's fucking destroyed. There's a blinking light in the fucking studio. I think someone drove through the fucking garage.
Yeah.
And the cops are here investigating.
Right.
Because I don't know how quick everything happened. And then then I finally get to come outside, and I come outside, and I'm like, what in the fuck?
So how did you know that you just knew you could? You're like, fuck this, I'm going to go outside.
No, eventually I just I could see them that they had thrown Buddy in the car, and then I was just like, I'm going outside.
Yeah.
So I went outside, and they're like, hey, and I like walked by the man door of the garage, and I could see that the studio was still intact.
Ooh.
But I could also see that there's a vehicle in the garage, like that didn't belong there. So I'm like, but I couldn't get a real good look. It was pitch black. So then I went out front, and I was just like, holy fuck. And like the tree's missing. The tree's like ripped off, and it's in my driveway. Fucking,
and that's a pretty decent sized tree. Like it's probably almost 8 inches, a foot in diameter.
But I couldn't even see my fucking car. I can't even see it, and it's like I see this SUV.
Your wife's car.
My wife's car.
You can't see your wife's car.
No. And there's this Mercedes SUV there, and you have to come like all the way around the SUV before you can even see the car, and it's just like the roof's like peeled off of it, and it's just destroyed.
Your car, your wife's car.
Yeah. And then it's like smashed into my fucking truck, and my truck's all fucking crushed in, and the wheels all bent.
And the garage door is taking off the garage.
Both fucking garage doors are gone. The center post, the whole front of the garage is like gone.
Yeah, and even the back side of it, the side
and then
of the
like
garage.
6 feet of this wall is fucking ripped right off. He came within 4 feet of hitting this corner of the igloo.
And the stuff in your garage came within inches of the igloo.
Yeah, well,
seriously,
it smashed into all that shit, which pushed it all towards the igloo.
Yeah.
I mean, the igloo got jolted enough that stuff fell off the walls.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that happened from, there was shit on the floor in here. So I don't know if that happened from cops running around or what the fuck. But, that shit all got bumped into, and it's all attached. So I'd imagine the igloo got a jolt.
Yeah.
Because it's like solid shit from here to the fucking door.
To the accident.
And that thing came fucking,
So the story is there was cops chasing
supposedly
a guy.
a cop chase, yeah. More than like, there's a whack of people that think it's a Mercedes too. That's what Buddy was driving, Hastings. That can get hacked.
Oh.
So this Mercedes comes down my street. It had to be doing 140 kilometers an hour.
You'd think, yeah.
Because it came through 2 fucking bushes, a snowbank, a fucking tree before it hit my wife's car and absolutely leveled it. Then still hit my truck, leveled that, took off the whole front of the garage, and finally stopped when it hit the telephone pole.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fucking... And the thing is, there's that big, huge boulder, decorative boulder my neighbors have. He missed that by like fucking 6 inches.
It's not fake though, is it?
No,
a real
it's
boulder?
decorative. Like it's a boulder that's there for decoration. It weighs almost a ton, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
and
if
you missed your little protective fox or your wolf, I keep calling it a fox.
The wolf?
Your little wolf outside.
If he would have hit the rock, the igloo wouldn't fucking exist.
You think that they would have launched off the rock and into the igloo?
Yeah, and it would have just be fucking
destroyed
gone.
the studio.
Yes, be nothing left of it. So the igloo's standing. Luckily, that's a bonus. We had no internet for a day and a half.
And we had 2 podcasts scheduled that Sunday that we had to schedule. We
Yeah.
had a rare Sunday, couple podcasts.
Yeah. Now, the big problem now is that they're like 50-50, and the engineer's coming in the next week. They're coming tomorrow to tear off all this drywall.
Well, this is the main problem, not considering all the little shit.
Well, not considering all the shit. I've already spent hundreds of dollars. Now, so get this. Well, let's get through the igloo shit first before we get to the fucking bullshit.
Okay.
So they're coming tomorrow. They're taking off all the drywall off this wall. I can see that, the first 4 studs or whatever are completely ripped out. And I can see that the next couple, it's slid out of where it's supposed to be. And then it's hard to tell. So they're going to come here and they're going to decide if the garage is shifted off its foundations. And if that's the case, they're tearing down the garage.
Now, and then the key is then, can they tear down the garage around the igloo and rebuild it without us fucking moving this thing?
That's right. Which
we kind of wanted to move it. I mean, we wanted to move out of here.
We wanted to move out of here in like a year and a half, because it's just, we're not at the level we need to be able to afford rent.
Yeah.
So we were thinking in like a year and a half from now, we might be. So right now, the hope is that they'll just fix the garage and the igloo just stays here. And we get a couple new doors and we're good. Just stay put for a year. If they tear down the garage and the igloo can stay, we can probably work it out through it. We'll tarp it or something so we can just stay here. If the contractor says the igloo has to go because it's in the way, then we're fucked. Well, we're not fucked, but we're tearing down the igloo, dismantling it, and we don't know yet. I mean, honestly, right now we can't really afford rent.
I mean, I don't even want to dismantle this thing. It's a fucking pain. It's like hundreds of pounds of each panel. It's not.
That's right. And we definitely can't afford to hire someone. And the other thing is we can't afford rent. So we don't know what we're going to do yet. And we don't know how bad it's going to get. So everyone just right now, the main thing is just cross your fingers.
Yeah.
And send good vibes that the garage is fixable and that the igloo can stay put. Because if we have to move, it's going to be a sad day dismantling this thing. And, we're not really in the position to be looking for a new place yet. And we'd rather just stay put for a year. So hopefully the garage is fixable.
Yeah. And then, I mean, honestly, when we do move this thing, it's going to be one more move. And then if you want to keep it, I mean, we could probably make a balsa wood studio that's just as good for sound and
balsa
50
wood?
times as light. I mean,
you'd have a hell of a time.
You know what I mean? Like this
have
is
a hell of a time.
It's not
matching
really
this.
like a modular thing that we were sold when we bought it.
It's pretty good though. So that's the hope. Everyone needs to cross their fingers. I mean, all that other little shit aside, I'd like to give a huge shout out. We did have a bunch of people rally when they seen the social media and send some good vibes and made a couple one-time donations that are definitely helped dealing with, we had to tarp it off. The insurance companies just left us sort of high and dry. So I had to go and buy lumber and tarps to fucking patch it for a few days. And they're saying now because it's a stolen vehicle, the best they'll do is the liability goes away from the owner of the vehicle. So now what they'll do for all my deductibles and everything is they'll try and sue this motherfucker that stole the car.
Who's that? The insurance company's going to try and sue them?
And if they can't get
because you have a $500 deductible on each car, and
there's a $500 on the cars and then a $250 on the tenant for the shit that got wrecked, the lawnmower and all that stuff.
All the lawn furniture and all the shit that was in the garage.
So that's like $1,250 in deductibles that they're saying if they can't get out of this felon that's not going to have any money. He was already wanted before he stole these cars. So I doubt this guy has RESPs that they could, or RSSPs are going to sue him for to pay me between the deductibles and everything else. And I have to go out and buy car seats now because my car seats get condemned and all the insurance. I mean, I'm hoping still my initial fucking run-ins with the insurance company so far aren't super good, and I'm not fucking looking forward.
You don't get a comfy feeling.
I'm not really looking forward to see what they're going to offer me for my Impala. I just paid it off for $16,000 like 2 years ago, and I'm guessing they're going to offer me like $6,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking forward to a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing is that I don't want to say too much, but I'm nearly certain that the cops fucking were in hot pursuit of this guy, and that's why he came into my shit at 120, 130 kilometers an hour. And they're not allowed to do that. I mean, it was literally fucking less than a minute before we're looking out the back window. And by the time I look out the back window, Buddy's already gone and arrested. Lisa's looking out almost instantly and watching him get arrested. So I think they ran him off the fucking road. Or they had something set up out front here to try and block them.
Oh,
they even had
came around that corner,
the fucking dogs ready to go.
Oh, and the helicopter.
Yeah. Well, the helicopter was supposed to be chasing him, and what protocol says
what I'm saying.
is the helicopter is just supposed to watch. And then when they get back out of town, then he's following the guy so they know where to reconvene when he's out of town. But I think they tried to cut him off here at the road. Or something.
Because you're like
happened.
the second last house before the little area.
I'm the third last house before you're out of the residential zone.
Third last?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's just sort of on a corner in a way too. So, I mean, yeah, but before we move on to some of the other little niggly things, I mean, we do want to thank everybody for their initial support. I mean, people sending texts and good vibes and social media stuff and very supportive. And then of course a bunch of conspiracy theories coming out of the woodwork as well, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, this is probably the only fucking garage in town that has a podcast broadcast out of it. So it's something to think about. Who we just talked to, Cliff High, and we're talking to Randall tonight.
Yeah. And we were going to chat on Sunday. Well, remember that thing with what's his name?
Sunday was Banal of America and the conspiracy guys
yeah.
fucking swapcast. That is interesting.
So what about, okay, let's dig into a little bit more about your insurance challenges and the cops and stuff too. So.
Oh, insurance is ridiculous.
So this is the problem.
They were pretty good at getting me cars right away. They got us rentals pretty quick, but the car seats are not, I have to go buy new car seats. I'm going to have to pony that up front.
And then keep the receipts and all that, and hopefully they reimburse you.
Yeah,
how does that not? So because this is...
And then they fought with me. For the first day, they fought with me saying they weren't going to provide storage, and I had to move all my shit myself. So we did that all yesterday. And then finally this morning, when they still hadn't called me back about all my shit, because the homeowner insurance that wants to fix the garage wants all this shit out of here. And I've already moved the stuff that's good into the house myself.
Yeah.
And the shit that's garbage to the garbage dump. And then there's a pile of shit that I should get fucking paid for. I pay these guys a bunch of money for my insurance for my property. Yeah. There's a pile of it there that's wrecked and needs to be replaced.
The car just trashed it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to deal with my insurance company, and they're like, well, so finally this morning I called and I was like, listen, man, I'm fucking sick of it. I pay you guys thousands of dollars a year. I don't know what you're going to do, but you haven't even told me yet. I got one guy telling me to get this shit out of the garage. I don't know what to do with it. I'm not taking it in my house. I can't take it to the dump because I want to claim it. And you're going to tell me that I took it to the dump. So now I'm fucked.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do. And I said, the other ironic thing is that fucking the media is super curious about what's going on.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask.
So I've already had one guy here taking pictures, and a couple people have asked me for an interview, and so far I haven't given one. But I'm getting ready to go talk to him and give my side, because when I told the insurance company that, though, I said, you know what, the media is real interested in what happened at my house, and I said it's just a matter of time till I talk to him. And I said I'd really rather not be fucking pissed off at you guys when I do. So she was like, oh, I get it, blah, blah, blah. And then so all of a sudden, an hour later, so at the time, they're making us deal with 3 different claims people.
Yeah.
One for tenant, and me for my truck, and my wife for a car. And then an hour later, this guy calls me back, and he's like, dude, I put all your claims into one. And he's like, send me a bill. I'm going to pay you $20 an hour for every man hour worked. And as soon as I said the news might be involved, their fucking attitudes changed completely. So, but they're still saying it's going to be on me for the deductibles and everything. I'm going to end up out thousands of dollars. And if you add in the car, I wouldn't be surprised this cost me $6-7 by the time.
And this is from
by the time they give me a check and I go buy my wife a new car, I'm going to probably have to put a few $1,000s on top of what they've given me to get her the same value of car.
Yeah, you can't go.
So it's going to cost me $6,000-$8,000 for some fella. And we're saying, why the fuck should we have to pay that? So we went to the cop shop today. And it got real weird. They tried to get us to fucking... You know what? I don't want to get into all that yet, because I'm talking to a lawyer. So I think we should save that whole side of things for a couple weeks until I've talked to my lawyer. Because the whole cop situation here, I think the cops are in the wrong. And I think...
For chasing the guy.
Yeah. And they're trying to tell me that for all this fucking thousands of dollars that I'm going to be out... that, we're going to add that to the restitution and that's going to get added to Buddy's charges. And I laughed at him. And it's like,
well, that's probably not.
You're going to, this felon, you think you're going to get the $10,000 from him to give to me because you were chasing him around? We weren't chasing him. They've all been real quick to tell me that they weren't chasing him. And I said, well, that's what you keep saying, but you guys were sure there pretty quick. And Lisa's really sticking to her guns too. She's like, I looked out my window fucking 10 seconds later and watched you tackle Buddy. He's like, I think you guys were chasing him. So yeah, it's going to get interesting because we're not settling for that. We're getting our money out of fucking someone. I'm not being out fucking thousands of dollars.
I mean, you can't be just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
In the wrong place. It was in my driveway.
No, and you had to take time off work. I mean, it's crazy. It's all this other. It's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's not even the podcast. That's all me personally. If the podcast has to move, that's a whole different. You can just add that to the whole fucking thing. And all this insurance that you pay for is just, it's fucking pathetic. Bro.
Yeah, it's gross.
And now they're telling me that all this shit that I'm claiming, well, we gotta add some depreciation to it, and it's like what? Well, so I've got to go buy a new fucking patio set. I get that I bought it 5 years ago, and it's probably only worth $50, but I can't go buy a new fucking patio set for $50. So am I just going to be out my shit, or are you motherfuckers going to buy me a fucking patio set?
Yeah.
You know, because when I bought it, it was worth $500 or $700 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got the chairs still, but they're fucking useless. They don't match.
The table's fucking chopped in half.
And then even that little Dyson vacuum that we use for vacuuming the studio is it got cracked.
Oh man, make sure you
I've got everything in a pile there.
Vacuums.
Oh. And then I was just that dresser that was all full of like the kids' little knickknacks and stuff like that. Their summer toys. Got like flattened into a pancake. It landed right on top of it.
So what about?
I have a bunch of parts. So where's that part? So the cable box is fucking 40 feet across the yard. It ended up in the garage, the top of the cable box.
So they weren't chasing him. Yet he went through 2 yards, landed up in your garage.
Yeah.
And 30 seconds later, he gets tackled and they were chasing him?
Yeah.
Come on.
With dogs.
The
dogs took him down before they tackled him.
So the dogs just knew he was coming.
They just got here, let the dogs out instantly. No, they weren't sitting there with the dogs out or anything.
Oh, that's just gross.
They weren't running an operation that they had the dogs at the beach and this fucking blocked off.
So between the cops and the insurance, you're just stuck. You know?
What I'm guessing is Buddy came flying around the corner, seen the fucking roadblock, tried to tap the brakes or something, and that was it. Just lost all control. Yeah. And they're like, holy fuck. That cop that was here talking to me spelt my name wrong fucking 5 times. He was shaking so much, it was unbelievable. Now, that could be adrenaline, but they were all fucking... I didn't even ask, and they're all just insanely quick to want to tell me that they weren't chasing him.
Yeah.
We weren't fucking chasing him. Well, every fucking newspaper and fucking news article I've seen says a high-speed pursuit ended in my fucking driveway.
Well, the thing is, why can't, like, what bugs me the most about that is that why can't we just be honest about stuff like that? We caught the guy, finally. He's been on a tear, and we chased him and we caught him, and we'll fucking buy your shit for you.
Yeah, that's just
like,
to me.
What's the
especially
problem with
in Canada,
that?
there's
just
so
own
much,
it.
There's so much fucking money, even if it was just him. That's what our justice system does for all the fucking taxes we pay and send overseas and fucking everything else. That fucking I'm going to be out, $5-10 grand for this.
And then you have to battle.
They can't go to the fund. I'm going to have to sue the RCMP to get or something, or sue somebody to get my fucking money. Otherwise, I'm just out with all the tax. I could see if we lived in an anarchist society where we pay way the fuck less taxes, but we fucking pay a lot of taxes here, some of the highest in the world. So for the amount of fucking money we pay in tax, there should be some fucking money. For the amount of money we're giving away to fucking people, there should be some fucking money in a fund to pay these fucking deductibles, and there should be a crew here. I mean, they just left the fucking front of my garage hanging off.
No,
they just finally came today to support it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only Tuesday. It happened Sunday.
I live across the street from a playground and a recreation center.
Yeah,
you imagine some kids are in here and this fucking thing fell on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be and it's not, the point of the matter is that it's not the cops or anyone that fucking is related to the cops or anyone else that's here doing it. It's my fucking insurance company's contractors. You would think when you have a police chase that fucking ends up in fucking ruin, you don't just leave the fucking car parts in the gaping hole, throw up some yellow tape and be like, see you later. Doesn't that seem like you should be securing something or doing something?
Yeah. And what's with your truck? It's still in the shop? It's quarantined?
They just fucking finally picked it up today.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
I
drivable.
thought you said it was quarantine or something.
Well,
so the car's a wreck.
The
for
car
sure.
seats get fucking.
Your truck is probably fixable, but it's not drivable right now.
The truck's, it'll get fixed. It'll probably be 10, 12 grand to fix it, I'm sure. It definitely needs a door, a hood, a fender, new wheels, new steering shit, new bumper.
Have you looked into this dude at all that stole the car?
No.
The Mercedes?
No, I haven't. I haven't had time.
No, I know. I'm
It's
not
just
saying
been-
like that. I'm just wondering if anybody's...
The stories are up there and everything like that. People can start looking into it if they want to. If they want to start tracking it down.
Just a car thief? Does he have any like intelligence background in his family?
I don't know. Like I say, I haven't got into any of that yet. Right now, I'm just
MK Ultra victim.
I'm squeezing some time out tonight to get some podcasts.
Can we go to court and watch this? Watch this go down?
I don't think you can in Canada. Remember in Canada?
Somebody said Michael said we could. I think.
No, he don't know what he's talking about. He's American.
He's an American.
Yeah. In Canada, they have to draw the pictures. Remember? I was just looking at some
but you
pictures.
can still go, can't you? Or?
Oh, you could go and watch it live.
That's what I'm saying.
But
We
if
should go
you're-
watch it live.
If you're not, well, no. I thought you meant people come watch my court case.
No. Go watch the what is it? The city
That's
against
tomorrow.
this dude. Is it?
Yeah.
When?
I don't know.
We should just fucking slide in and see what happens. Get a beat on this guy.
Head down. I don't want to get involved any more than I already am, man. I really don't. Like.
Then you should stop fucking tweeting.
Well, right now I need them on my side.
Who?
The media, maybe.
Maybe.
They're a powerful fuck. As much as I hate the MSM, they're a pretty powerful tool if I'm gonna, if I start having troubles with. As soon as I mention that to insurance, they fucking 180'd. So.
And so the media's been by here.
The media's been
times.
here a couple times. Yeah.
You should bring him into the studio and say, "Yeah, we'll do an interview right now."
Buddy tried to get an interview out of me.
They're probably searching you now. They're
He
probably
knocked on the door.
trolling the show.
Oh, they've seen the page. Buddy's following us. He's got like 140 followers. But I'm thinking about it. But I don't want to do anything until I talk to someone. But the media seems like a powerful tool in my situation. It's a high profile
thing. It's not
thing.
really MSM. I mean, it's the local. It's your local guy.
Yeah,
your local guys.
The local guys. But yeah, it's still, to me, it's the MSM. I mean, normally I wouldn't support them. That's why I said no to the interview when they first asked. I was like,
you don't even know what the fuck they're going to put out there. You got to be careful with that, man. They could throw a little blurb from you. I mean, you're only going to get fucking 2 seconds on the news.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the worst fucking 2 seconds of stuff you said. You look like a hick or something. So you got to be careful.
Take me out.
Exactly. So let's be really careful about what you talk about if you're in the media.
No, if I go, it's going to be like when I need to as a tool to put some pressure on other people.
Be careful, man.
I'm not doing anything until I talk to someone.
And they'll give you like 2 seconds.
Well, what I'll do is I'll tell them we're doing it here.
It'll be
and we'll broadcast the
thing.
We'll broadcast it live on YouTube while Buddy's interviewing me.
That's what we do.
And we'll say, you want the fucking scoop?
Pulling Alex Jones
you want the
on
scoop?
him. This is what we said, and this is what they fucking said that we said.
If you want the scoop, it's happening in my studio.
Yeah.
You can have the scoop. I have so much better pictures than all of them. They don't even have any pictures with any cars in it. All their pictures are just the garage with the tape up. I have like fucking 50 pictures.
Imagine.
So say, yeah, you come to the studio. I'll give you some pictures for your little story.
Put it on YouTube, and then you can
put it on YouTube,
can take what you want.
And you do what you want, but we'll have our version.
I would agree with you. That's the only way it goes down.
Alex
Jones him.
I'll tweet him.
Alex Jones. Not now. Let's just wait till we're done.
Not this second.
All right. Well, that's been. What else do you want to say about it? Anything else? Just really.
That's about it. I mean, it's been. We could definitely use some good vibes over here. It's been a fucking crazy week, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get any less. I was trying to get to work by Thursday, and I don't even know if that's going to happen.
Well, you better, because we need you.
I know
there too. So
that's the problem. Needed everywhere right now.
Yeah. So we'll reschedule Sunday's guests, and
those are going to be tough to squeeze in too.
Yeah, I know.
We're so fucking slammed right now.
So one of them's European.
Can you imagine?
One of them's European.
Can you imagine
afterlife?
How the fuck are we going to fit all this in if we have to move this motherfucker?
Well, we're not. We can't.
We're fucked.
Yeah.
It's just.
Luckily, we got a couple episodes.
We do have a lot. Oh, I did want to give a shout out to Brent, our buddy Brent C. I'll leave it at that, from Calgary. He Facebook messaged us and he came right over. He drove like 3 hours back from his. He was out of town for the weekend. The second he got into town, he came over and helped put up the tarps and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Brent.
It's a big shout out to Brent for that. It's awesome.
Is that the guy that's been listening for a while?
Yeah, he's been listening since he used to do Homestyle Hardwood for us.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, right
that's
on.
right.
Awesome.
So big shout. He doesn't do that anymore though. So
I think he's a D&D guy too. They're all out of the woodwork.
So yeah, I mean, if that's another thing. If we do have to move this igloo, it's going to cost more than money. It's going to cost fucking time. So if that happens, we probably will put the back signal out to some local listeners because it takes a lot of fucking manpower to move this motherfucker.
And a picker crane, literally.
The picker can't get it from here.
Why not?
Because remember we had to roll them down the fucking driveway because of the power lines?
Concrete rollers.
Well, now we got to roll them up. And we can't roll them up, so we have to carry them one at a time.
We'll have a pulley system or something. We'll figure something.
Yeah. Let's just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Until we could hire dudes. Wouldn't be so bad if you could hire dudes.
So, yeah.
So, the insurance company did actually call me back today and said they would cover $15,000 of storage. Do you think that includes a studio space?
$15,000 of storage?
Up to 50% of my policy value.
Yeah. Just be careful looking at that first, because
Well, right now I'm not doing anything with it because I already moved all my shit into my house.
Yeah.
It's like that was helpful yesterday, bro.
Yeah.
But who knows? Fuck those motherfuckers.
So, anyways, I guess I'll save the emails and the UFO quote and all that, and we'll move on to the next thing. We got an interview scheduled real quick here.
What time is it?
Quote. I could even save the UFO quote. It's time.
Oh yeah. We better just save everything and fucking we're supposed to be live like now.
We do have a little support spiel though. We are value for value. I had a couple emails to read about that, about people appreciating that we have no ads and no sponsors and nothing like that.
No corporate overlords.
No corporate overlords. We are fully listener supported and we can't do it without you.
We just have listener overlords and that's you guys. So overlord us.
And we do have a Black Budget feed. Actually, we're recording right now for the Black Budget feed, which will be coming out soon, I believe. I don't know. We've got a couple to release in there, and any donation at all will get you access to that.
That's right. Check out Grimerica.ca/support, guys. That's where all the different options there. Did have a couple people mention they couldn't find the one-time donation link. That is way down at the bottom. You just scroll past, and I know the contact page is fucked. I'll fix it when I have time.
The contact page?
Is it the contact page? No, the support page is good.
Okay.
I make sure that one works.
Yeah.
I think the contact page might be fucked. But I mean, you all know Graham's email. If you can't find mine, it's not the end of the world.
GRAHAM@Grimerica.com. And Darren's on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. And email us stories and feedback and all kinds of stuff.
All that shit. We don't have time to do all the normal stuff. So this is a kind of a little squeeze in so we could get you guys up to speed. We had a ton of people asking what happened. So this is easier than fucking tweeting y'all.
Yeah, and then we'll put out another, like, this is really a bonus ep, and we'll put another regular one out this
Friday.
Weekend, probably Friday or Saturday, let's say.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, guys, enjoy the chat. Shannon?
Yep.
Ectoplasm, baby. It's a fun one.
We've got Shannon Taggart here. She's got an upcoming book called Seance, and it's like the 17-year-long project of hers on modern spiritualism and the search for ectoplasm. She's been a photographer for quite a while as well. Publications like Time, New York Times Magazine, Discover, Newsweek, all that. And she's been using this talent in her search for the spiritual. So this is going to be a really interesting one. We haven't really talked about this a lot in depth. So welcome to the show, Shannon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. I got your email. I was looking into it, and we brush on this quite a bit. I mean, we talk about ghosts and spirit communication and the afterlife a little bit. But it's good to talk. It's good to talk to somebody that's been looking at this for years. So I think it's probably prudent that we start with a bit of a background on how you got interested in all this stuff, because I'd like to get some context and stuff before we talk to you about the details of your research.
Okay, yeah, sure. So when I was in high school, when I was I think I was like 16 years old, my cousin went to a place called Lilydale, New York, which is the world's largest spiritualist community, and she received a message from a medium that revealed the story about how my grandfather really died, and as opposed to the story that everybody was told, and it. My whole family was really shocked and taken aback and kind of disturbed by this. And it always stuck with me, like, how could a total stranger know something like that? I mean, she received the message anonymously. It had happened 30 years prior. It wasn't a secret that she had in her head. So it kind of, couldn't have been really like pulled from her brain psychically. So that mystery of that always stuck with me. And then I became a professional photographer, and I was working as a photojournalist, and I thought, I'll spend like one summer doing a short little project about this quirky little town in upstate New York, which was actually an hour from where I grew up. That's where it's located, in the southern tier of New York State. And instead, here I am 17 years later, still kind of working on this project.
Interesting. It reminds me of when I was about 15 or 16, actually. I've talked about this a little bit. We had some of my friends and I were into some of this stuff a little bit. Actually, we were kind of playing around with the Ouija board a little bit in high school in the classrooms at lunchtime. And I don't think this was related to the ghost picture we took, but we got a couple photographs of we were in a haunted turret. My friend's house had a tower in it. And we took pictures. We were all in a circle in the top of this tower, and it was supposedly haunted. And we got pictures back, because this was before digital photography. This is like 85, 86, I guess. And it had a glowing orb in this guy with almost like a glowing cummerbund. There was one really outstanding picture of almost like a glowing parts of this spectral tuxedo with an orb kind of thing. And there was another orb in it, and then there was another picture of an orb as well. And I remember my girlfriend's mom at the time was like, "You guys shouldn't go there. Like, don't go there. Like, just leave that," kind of thing. So, but that definitely triggered some interest for me in the paranormal as a teenager.
Yeah, wow, it's funny because that's similar exact thing happened to me that kind of drew me further into the project. I started to get these weird pictures amongst my very straightforward documentary pictures. And I started to think about that and contemplate that. And what are these pictures saying? And are they meaningful? As a professional photographer, you don't want the picture with the glowing orb in it. You want everything to be as straightforward and controlled as possible. But there were certain photographic synchronicities that were kind of leaking into the project, and I decided to just embrace it and kind of try to play with that as much as possible. So that's one aspect of the project, is me trying to play with that type of photography.
What were some examples of some of those pictures?
So, like the first one, it's similar, not as dramatic as your story, but similar to yours. I was in Lilydale, New York. It's I think I mentioned it's the world's largest spiritualist community, and spiritualism is actually a religion that started in upstate New York and then spread across United States and England and pretty much all across the Western world in the 1850s, and was really popular till the 1930s. Mm-hmm. But so this is the hub of it. And I was in their museum, and there was a volunteer there, and she was telling me all about spiritualism. And I was, because when I began the project, I knew nothing about any of this, really. I was very new. And So I think I took 2 rolls of film of her while I was talking with her. And when I developed the film, because I was shooting film at the time, there was a huge purple orb right by her, like resting on her shoulder, in 2 different frames on 2 different rolls, but in the exact same place on her body. And I'd never gotten anything like that before. And I was like, wow, this is just really weird. And I printed them and I brought them back to her the next week. And I said, I took these pictures and I got this weird purple light around you. I thought you'd find it interesting. And she took the pictures in her hands and looked at them and said, oh, that's my husband, Bob. And she was convinced that this was Bob's energy, showing him through on my camera. And I had never thought about photography in that way, that that the anomaly could be meaningful. I mean, I don't know, when you had your experience, did you see anything with your eyes?
No, I didn't.
Right.
But
so
there was supposed to be a guy that used to live in that house that was haunting it. So it kind of fit with the myth of the place. But I didn't see anything physically.
Right. Because I've heard also the big story you always hear is when people do see something, they bring up the camera and then the camera won't work.
Exactly. And then you have the opposite where you don't see the orbs and then the orbs show up on film. Yeah.
Yes. That seems to be how things work. So that was one of the first, just sort of weird stories. And then, I would be in a seance and trying to eventually I started to go into seances, which is the dark rooms, when they turn off the lights and they use sometimes red lights, or, there's a medium speaking in trance. And I would go and try to make a straightforward picture. And because it's a low light situation, it would be a longer exposure, and I'd get visuals that kind of had a synchronicity to the invisible experience that the person was telling me that they were having. And I just started to have more and more of these as I tried to go with it. And so that's definitely an element in the project. So it's a straightforward kind of documentary ethnography project, but it's also this paranormal experimentation art project as well.
So if somebody was having what kind of experience, like meditating on something or having a vision of something, or maybe...
Well, there was one, one of the first ones was this, we were in a Thursday night circle at Lilydale. So it was like anybody could come in and they turn off all the lights in the healing temple, and they passed around like a red flashlight. And so there's a woman who gets the red flashlight and she's meditating, and everybody in the room is seeing this, a spirit right next to her face that looks like her, but it doesn't. And they're thinking maybe it's her grandmother or her in a past life or something. And I was not seeing this with my eyes, but everybody seemed to be clairvoyantly seeing this second face. And I had my camera on a tripod and I tried to take a very straightforward picture of her. And when I got the film back, there was this second face, looked like it slid just right off of her face, with streams of light that seemed to attach it. And it looked like her, but different. It was exactly what people were saying they were seeing clairvoyantly, but rendered by this long exposure. So, it was this synchronicity. And a professional photographer would say, oh, it's just a function of your shutter long exposure. But it was so eerily synchronistic. Yeah. To me, I found it interesting. And the people who were there say, no, that's proof. Yeah. There's all these different interpretations there.
Is that the one I saw on your website, probably?
I think it might be in.
Yeah, there was one that sounds very similar to that on your website there, in the Lilydale.
The website's pared down, but I have a lot of the images that I end up talking about. I have kind of sampled on the site, so I think that should be be on there.
There's an arrow on the top right there, Darren. Yeah. So that's super interesting. So synchronistic stuff happening, and then so were you doing the seances right off the bat there when you got into this, or did it take?
Well, for the most part, spiritualism. they kind of focus on the clairvoyant style that you see in like the pop shows. Like, have you ever seen the Long Island Medium?
I've seen like excerpts or something like that.
Yeah, where it's in their like when they're in white rooms, and it's nothing spooky. It's just people having a conversation. There's very friendly and open, and that was a lot of what was going on. But then I started to find out, some people still did seances, and in fact, some mediums really still pursued the Victorian era techniques, which is, in the dark room with the medium's cabinet and trying to produce the mysterious substance of ectoplasm. Mm-hmm. And so, the project ended up being trying to find people who were redoing these Victorian era seances and dealing with ectoplasm.
Wow.
Because I just became fascinated with the topic.
So did you have any, before we get into more of the ectoplasm thing, did you have any experiences in the seances at all that were profound as far as some sort of other communication or anything like that, or any sightings of any spirits?
Yeah, I started to just get as many readings as possible. I had spiritual healings. I even took like mediumship classes, and within those situations, I had a variety of experiences. I had really absolutely absurd, silly, hilarious experiences. I had experiences that were just totally just off the mark and didn't make any sense to me. And then I did have many mysterious experiences where I did get information that I did then verify, or information that I knew to be true that I knew the person giving it to me did not know. Mm-hmm. So it was really a mixed bag, and it still is a mixed bag of what you get in these types of situations. It's not anything predictable.
Hmm. And then you got more interested in the ectoplasm, and did you listen to, like, did a lot of people have stories there of communication? I have a bunch of questions around the specific sort of seances and making sure that you're not asking for the wrong communication. Like, you never know what you're getting in a way, right? Are you getting the person you're asking for to communicate with you, or is it something evil? Like, how do you guys make sure that you're communicating with the right type of spirit?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. So spiritualism it's kind of like it's a very positive kind of focusing on healing, focusing on their main point is that they talk to the dead not for anything, like no magical purposes, meaning like they're not asking for anything, and they're not trying to manifest in ways that other traditions do. They're trying to provide healing for the living and proof that we live after death. So if you ask a spiritualist, they would say we set our intention of white light, and we go into all of our everything that we do, whether it be a reading, a healing, or a seance. We set our intentions for only the highest and the best, and to talk to higher spirits or spirits of relatives. But it does definitely, the Victorian seance, I think, does verge on, people might question what exactly is happening, especially with the ones where they try and do physical effects and create physical manifestations or make things move, or, there's people looking on the outside would debate that that's exactly what they're doing. Spiritualists say that because they demand the protection, and their intention sets what actually goes on.
Yeah. I understand that. Similar to what we do out in the field looking for UFOs. Like, we put that loving intention out there for love.
In the field? Is that what we're calling it now? Out in the field. Out in the field. So, you guys have code names?
No code names. No. So, do people have experiences of healing and after death communication, after death communication with that?
Yeah, I think I've met a lot of people who just travel to Lilydale because they, had a loved one die and they never expected to do something like this, but they're so distraught or upset or confused or need something that nothing else can give them, so they go and visit a medium. And for the most part, the mediums that I have met and worked with are sincere practitioners. I know the stereotype is that it's just people looking to make money, but that's really has been not my experience with spiritualism. I've met a lot of people who've had their lives changed by readings. I've had a lot of dramatic messages, but you're always questioning. I'm constantly in a state of questioning myself, and I find the deeper I get, the more questions I have, and the less that are answered.
That's exactly what our last guest just said too. That's pretty funny.
Have you had any big eureka moments that you remember or jump to mind?
Well, this is just like a recent one. So, my mother passed away in May, and one of my closest friends is a medium. And I had told her, obviously I told her, we're taking my mother off life support. And so she said, okay, I'll talk to you later. I'm sending my love. And so then after my mother passed, my brother and my sister said, we're going to get a tattoo for Mom. Like my sister said, describe the one she was going to get. And then my brother described, the one that he was going to get. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And I just forgot about it. And then the next morning, she gave me a text and she said, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but your mom came to me last night. And she listed all the stuff that my mother told her. And the last thing she said, she goes, and then she said, she just wanted everyone to know no tattoos. And she laughed and then she took off.
That's hilarious.
And I mean, she was in a different city. I hadn't talked to her. There was no way, we were in a hospital. There was no way she could have heard that or known that. You know what I mean?
Did they listen to her?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess so. That's pretty funny.
We hear that all the time. I mean, we get people send those in all the time and call them synchros, and then I won't rate them because they're like something else.
There's something more personal, like about
there's not even a synchro. It's something different, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my sister had one with my dad. It was more of a dream, but like my dad visited my sister a couple times, and she went to a medium, and she told myself and my mom before she went, she said, I want this medium. And now I don't know what's the other word, not medium, but like a psychic. I can't, sometimes I get mixed up with them. I think they are sort of different. So I don't know if it was a medium or a psychic technically, but she said, I want the psychic to talk about the 2 times Dad visited me. And the psychic brought up like, your dad's visited you twice, like specifically brought up these 2 visits. And there was a couple other details that my sister told us she wanted to hear from, and then they got the recording from the medium, and it was like bang on and what my sister wanted her to talk about. So
or needed,
yeah.
Yes, it's really interesting, and I've also sat in on a lot of readings, and because I know so many mediums too, they've also told me their personal stories. So for me, there's just too much there to discount. At the same time, it works in a very mysterious way, and I understand how people can easily dismiss it, because sometimes people don't get exactly what they wanted. They get something different that doesn't make sense until like 3 years later. Or, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't work as exactly with everybody, and so I understand how some people. And also too, for the most part, a lot of people just expect to go into a room and have life and death proved for them. Like have everything proved for them in one exact moment, and if it's not, then they dismiss the whole thing. I've encountered that quite a bit, but yeah. But for me, I've just seen too much. But I've also like spent a lot more time than most people.
Yeah.
Got to be able to get to the bottom of it in like 2 or 3 clicks.
Did you get into the history of spiritualism at all, and how it fell, like what happened to it in the early 1900s?
Yeah, actually, that's the history of spiritualism is actually why my project has become such a long-term, endeavor. what I realized, or what I learned from the spiritualists when I first started working in Lilydale, was that there was a thing called spirit photography, and I mean, I went to photo school and we studied the history pretty extensively, and I had never seen or heard of this era of photography. It was kind of like an outsider moment in the history of photography. It's not in any of the textbooks that I studied from, and it's actually kind of recent that people are re-looking at the history of trying to photograph spirits and ghosts. And spiritualism and photography started around the same time. I mean, you have, spiritualism 1848. I think photography is like 1838, and people were trying to photograph ghosts and spirits as soon as they got their hands on cameras. And that's kind of because it's such a also absurd and bizarre history. I think it's a hard thing for historians to address, so they just kind of kept it out. But I ended up being really inspired by the whole visual history of it, and then also the social history. I mean, not a lot of people know that, like, some of the most famous scientists who ever lived were fascinated with spiritualism.
No doubt. They were way more spiritual than people think. I mean,
yeah. And like, all the Nobel laureates who started the Society for Psychical Research. And I think maybe for me, I meet a lot of people who don't know anything about this history. But, I guess if you're interested in the paranormal, you might know more about this. But and then there's also like the fact that spiritualism played a huge part in the birth of abstract art and the history of women's rights. And, almost a lot of interesting people throughout that era were drawn to spiritualism, played around with it, studied it, and I think right now in our time, it kind of gets lumped in with everything New Age, but it's actually a very distinctive tradition and moment, and has its own really fascinating history.
Yeah, I mean, especially it saddens me that we kind of made headway, I feel like, back then with this kind of stuff, and then I feel like it almost got clamped down. Like now, when people look like our take on what happened, what reality is right now, like I think we're going back to what we learned 100 and something years ago, but we're stuck in this dogmatic paradigm for a while, and people just like erase all that shit from the history books, and they poo-poo it, like all this skepticism, and they burn it. They just, it's like, so it's interesting to me what happened in the early 1900s before, or like
when we were making good headway.
Yeah, headway.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also too, part of the problem maybe is that things weren't proved in a way that people wanted them to be proved, or they weren't be able to make photographs of spirits in a way that was convincing scientifically. Or they also figured out that photography is not a scientific tool. It's a really subjective medium. And also, like in science, we know that, I think now we know, or at least people who are interested in these topics know, that this stuff is problematic for laboratory science. Proving in a way that it's like studying sports or emotions, or it's more akin to that kind of a study.
Well, you can never prove that it's real, right? I remember this from the UFOs in the 90s when I was interested in that, because photography was kind of, I don't know if that was before even digital cameras probably, but they would say, like, you can prove one's fake. You can figure out that this photograph is fake, but you can't prove it's real. So all you can say is it doesn't seem fake. Like it's not really scientific enough to give proof. It never will be, really.
Well, I was going to say the fact that you got fucking Ouija boards and Toys R Us now can't be helping. or maybe it is helping. Maybe it is. It can't. Scary. Doesn't seem like it can be.
Have you heard those stories when I was a kid, trying to get rid of their Ouija boards? You try and burn them, they show back up in your place. Like, you don't want to be attached to one of those things.
Yeah, it's Yeah, the Ouija board actually started out as a spiritualist thing, and they've denounced it almost completely. They don't want anything to do with it either. So, yeah.
When did they do that? When Toys R Us started carrying it?
No, the whole history of the Ouija board is really bizarre, but and there's a historian named Mitch Horowitz who has written and talked about this, and so I'm drawing a lot of my information from remembering his talks. But I think it was in Ohio. Because the early spiritualists would speak to the spirits with like coded rappings, like the first spiritualist mediums, the Fox sisters. They would talk. They would rap the alphabet, and so people who were experimenting with seance rooms kind of got bored with the whole like rapping numbers to decode the messages. So they started making these talking boards, and they were used by spiritualists early on. But then I don't know when exactly, but they started to realize like, this was now spiritualists would say, you get the low energy, the low spirits when you use the Ouija board. So
you can get a Ouija board on Amazon Prime for $30 Canadian. That's like $15 US, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be
well, I don't know. It's a tool. It's like a tool that creates a portal. It's almost just
the top hit is a couple of apps for your phone, Ouija apps.
Oh, geez, that's crazy. That shouldn't
so
be.
like, is that like different? Is there a difference? Like our producer here is asking if there's a difference between a real Ouija board and one that you could get at Amazon.
You mean like a handmade one, or like a
is there legit, genuine?
Does it need to be like
specific symbols?
Yeah, like is there a way that the symbology is different, or does it need to be made in a certain way, or does it just like you can put these things on a production line that? Because really, they're just sticking stickers to cardboard, basically.
Right, but
that might be enough.
Yeah, that's what it might be enough. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's more about the human's intention, the human giving the energy and sending, the agency to it. But yeah, you might get, although spiritualists kind of don't recognize like magic. They don't really think like magic, people who are magic practitioners say, but like a magic practitioner might say, if you had an old Ouija board, that would be like a more charged object.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the other side of it is, as do they make it available for $25 because they want everyone to think it's a toy? And does that actually take power away from it?
Actually, thinking of it as a toy would actually probably make it more effective. There's a researcher named Kenneth Batcheldor, and he did a lot of studies about table tipping and kind of trying to create physical effects. And he would say, party atmosphere is where it's at. Like you get the energy going that way. So I actually think viewing it as a toy helps it work, because your mind is at play. When your mind is at play, it's sort of like, when you fly a kite, you run and you try to get the wind to catch it. Like, you give it some action. There's those theories in the study of psi, that party, playful, laughing, singing, energy, the playfulness kind of helps with certain types of experiences.
Kind of like when your brain falls into that flow state where you're just sort of existing.
Yeah.
So what did you say about the difference between Ouija board and the traditional, or not the traditional, but the, like when they denounced it, is because it carried what, heavier spirits or something like that? Or what were you saying the difference was?
I'm not certain exactly when it was denounced, but now the spiritualists that I know and speak with say that it's a crutch, and it's also attracts low energy spirits.
That's what it was. Yeah, attracts low energy.
You're supposed to raise your consciousness and kind of do it without a device.
It's almost like a shortcut for them. It's like psychedelics for us in a way. It's like they can just, instead of working with the medium and tapping away at the code, you're just going through the board. It's like the lazy spirit route.
Right, but Yeah, but at the same time, there's this whole other movement within. It's kind of on the fringes. It's not all spiritualists do it, but it's called instrumental transcommunication, and so that's like EVP and using cameras and video and orb photography, and so it's weird because that kind of is
another way like that. Another.
Yeah, but I mean, they're using technology in combination with mediumistic practices to kind of extend the senses or create, create evidence or stuff that can be analyzed. And I don't know, spiritualism has always been deeply tied with technology. There's always been this interplay between spiritualism and technology. And I guess the Ouija board could be seen as a type of technology. And but for some reason it's denounced, but other techniques are not.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, I feel like that's a bit different than the orb photography or the Frank's box type stuff or whatever. I don't know.
So
that
is
would be
every
similar.
orb something, or are some orbs better than others? Are all orbs equal?
What?
Well, because I got a buddy, Scoob. Scoob used to be really into taking orb pictures, and I'm just wondering, like, because he used to get them all the time, and he used to hang out with that one lady that, like, he used to be like, it's fucking uncanny. She just pulls over and she's like, take a picture right there. And then they'd get the picture.
Yeah, and my friend had the orbs come after him.
And you know what? The one he was
follow him after his sweat lodge, and he videotaped them and everything, and they were flying around his room.
Yeah, the one he mentioned was by like a high traffic intersection. So it made me wonder, if it's spiritual energy, maybe it's because there's a lot of car accidents.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said about the one woman, it's uncanny. Like, that is the most interesting thing about the orb phenomena or the study of it. It's not whether it's dust or water or like it's an artifact of the camera. It's when people try to interact with the orbs and have them, appear in patterns or zoom in and find, faces, or, I've seen people say, okay, I'm going to get orbs here, and they'll start off with one orb and then they'll just try to concentrate and ask for more. And then by the end of the photo series, a room full of orbs in the picture. So it's playing with your consciousness, inviting them or trying to manipulate the orbs through the camera. That aspect, that synchronicity, that play is the most interesting aspect, I think, for sure.
Totally. So I just met a guy.
Here we go with the UFOs.
No. I just met a guy who was at East Ranch.
Oh, no.
And he was with his wife, and his wife was kind of skeptical about all this, and he went out into the field of dreams, I think it's called, where there's all these orbs. And he says, look, they like, and this is what you're talking about, Shannon. They like it when you dance around. So he would start dancing around, and his wife was watching through, I think she was taking pictures, or no, she was videotaping maybe. I can't remember if it was just plain sight. And the orbs he started attracting all the orbs. And then one stuck on his shoulder and stayed there. And that convinced her that, like, holy shit, like, that was the key, that watching an orb stay on his shoulder while he was dancing around this field did it for her.
Yeah, that's it. And for me, I mean, I have a similar orb story. Well, I usually don't get orbs, and my husband is a professional photographer also, and he seems to think that you're more apt to get orbs if you have a smaller digital camera with a smaller chip. And, I'm working with a large professional camera, so it has a large digital chip. And so, but I have gotten them, but rarely. And I went to Sardinia for a conference, and there was orb photographers there. And they said, okay, we're going to go and try to photograph orbs. And I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to try, but I'm not going to get any orbs. I don't think I will. And they said, well, if you come in the mountains with us and we say our prayers, you will get orbs. And I the mountains with, and then I took a picture. Did I just?
You're okay. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
I took a picture. The website, I think, and I'll send it as well. It's orbs upon orbs upon orbs upon orbs in this image. It's every single inch of this image is orbs.
Wow.
And file, you can just zoom in, and it's just orbs upon orbs upon orbs. And it wasn't raining, and there wasn't dust, any noticeable dust anymore. So there wasn't anything visual that I noticed that made the scene any different. So I really don't know what happened.
Lots of prayers.
I just know that they prayed for the orbs, and then I photographed.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
So praying's the same as meditating.
Well, no, not meditating could be listening, and praying could be, talking or asking. Right? So
they're very similar. I think they're the same state. One's sending and one's receiving. Still a telephone. So, so if you can meditate UFOs, maybe the UFOs are just all orbs. What are the orbs?
No, some people say that. We see lots of lights and stuff. So if they could be orbs that are powering up, or who knows?
Powering up.
Yeah, like light, lighting themselves and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a definite crossover between spirits, orbs, and UFOs for sure.
Oh yeah, and I should say in Sardinia they have a huge UFO. Like stories of UFOs, people interested in them, and we did see a couple of really strange flying objects that night too.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird, but I do think they're interrelated, and I think spirit mediums also. It's kind of this, it's this liminality, like crossing over. I think it's all related.
Can you talk about those sightings then? Just people want to hear it now that you mentioned it. We have listeners. Listeners always email us in their sightings.
Orbs are big too. Orbs are a big one.
Yeah.
Oh well, we were focusing on the orbs, and we were in. I think it's Seven Sisters Mountain in Sardinia, and Sardinia is actually one of the oldest, like some of the oldest civilizations throughout history began there. I don't know
where is that again.
It's an island off of the coast of Italy.
Oh, okay.
It's like southern. It's Sardinia, and then there's the French. The top of it's where Napoleon was born. I'm drawing a blank on what it. Anyway, the bottom part is now Italy, but we were in these mountains. There was like Stonehenge type rock formations that nobody knows exactly what they mean or what they're from, but and some of the people in Sardinia, I think they have one of the largest populations of people over 100 years old in the mountains too. And I was told by the Sardinians that there's been many UFO stories and sightings throughout all of their history.
Sounds like
is that group of people that are RH negative? I wonder they have different blood type than everybody.
I think I've seen them on that documentary Happy or whatever.
The blue people that blue zones. They're in the blue zones.
Feed their dead to those birds?
I'm not sure. I know they live in the mountain region of Sardinia.
Yeah, I thought I seen a special on them. They live up in those mountains, and then they have there's no way to.
No, that's not them. I don't think that's not them. They just socialize a lot. I bet if they live to 100, they're very social. I bet you they have lots of friends and lots of loved ones.
I think I don't know. I think the whole area though has a fascinating history, and I know that UFOs are a big part of what the people I met there were interested in.
What's the so finish your sighting then? The class, yeah.
So they had all these big these rock formations, and so what the people from Sardinia, there was a medium there who was visiting from England, and they were having him go near the rocks and tell, he was trying to channel visions of the past to kind of decode these rocks. And so he would go near a rock and tell a story, like what he was seeing, and then we'd all be taking pictures to see if we got orbs. And about, I don't know, I think maybe an hour into our hike, and it was at night and it was dark, and I was getting random orb pictures. And I did get a lot of compelling orb pictures actually during this time. But there was 2 or 3 moments when something flew overhead, and it was, I don't know how to, it was just flying lights in the sky. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't see a huge craft or anything, but it was pretty, it seemed to be, it was just strange that it happened. And then the people I was with were like, oh yeah, okay, well, we see the UFOs here too all the time. And then they started praying for the UFOs, and then nothing else happened though.
Yeah. So, but it's funny because when you say lights in the sky, people could scoff, but I mean, I've seen them too, and they're not planes. You can tell they're not planes, you know?
Yeah. It was very, and it was fleeting. So it was,
Orbs.
Awesome.
Maybe it's all orbs. What are the orbs, though?
Well, there's a lot of people say they're spirits, right? They're
I wasn't asking you.
They're okay. Well, Shannon, what are the orbs?
Well, I mean, yeah, no. Some people say they're spirits. Some people say they're energy. Some people, well, you know, I took an orb class this summer, and the teacher at Lilydale, she's been teaching the class I think for 15 years, and she had some crazy examples. And there's one I actually asked her if I could use it, so I'll send it to you. It's a woman was sitting thinking of her friend who had died that day, and so she, and got an orb that looks exactly like a picture that she had of him.
No way, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it really, really does look like him. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, send that for sure.
I'll have that.
So when you hear stories like that, it's pretty hard to think of them as not being spirits. But then when I hear some just being in some field off McKnight Boulevard in Calgary, you know, would they just be hanging around there? Or is that something, is there different levels of orbs?
I don't know. Some people think of them as mandalas, so they zoom into them to see the patterns and kind of use them as a meditation tool. I don't know. It depends on the person, really. Like it's so subjective. It's so. I mean, I think orbs can be different things to different people at different times. I mean, I think the main thing is it's consciousness interacting.
Yeah.
In some way with something else.
Yeah, we had that guy on, Darren, that did the research on the orange orbs, and he was saying that there are a lot
Terry Ray,
and that they're disguising craft. It's like a cloaking device for a craft. So there's that whole theory as well.
Just a bunch of little mini crafts here, like batteries not included.
Yeah,
that's fucked up. So is your main business then must be seances? Like people, that must be the main thing, is people contacting the dead. I think actually my aunt and my cousin did that shortly after my cousin passed away.
Oh. And
it was like, you know who else? They went and seen, I forget who it is, but they went and seen one of the guys in like someplace in Vegas, I think, in like an auditorium setting. And it was super profound.
Really?
Some of the stuff, like I think you pay extra money or something to get picked out, or I don't know how it works.
Well, that sounds
like
legit.
I guess, yeah. But anyway, they got selected or whatever, and I guess everything that they said to them just fit with.
Yeah.
It was a big changer for them for sure. Yeah. They're like all in now on the afterlife for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of times too, you'll see those shows and everyone says, oh, it's just edited together. You know, I mean, like I'm thinking the John Edwards show. I don't know if you've seen that, Crossing Over, or like I said earlier, the Long Island Medium. But I actually realized sometimes you see a message and it looks totally meaningless to you, but you have no idea what's going on in the person's, like you have no idea what kind of information they have and what is actually happening. Unless they tell you after, you know, it can look, what I'm saying is it can look really pointless and stupid and not meaningful, but it actually, a lot of times it can be like, it could seem vague, I guess is what I'm saying. I learned early on to not judge other people's readings by watching it, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. So is there a difference between original photography and digital?
No, I mean, for me, digital frees me up to do more, you know, you don't have to change the roll. And, you know, I can actually shoot more and experiment more and get the lighting right. Because, you know, with film, you can't peek at it. But I mean, I've gotten results with film and with digital. I think it's just a tool. I think there's plus and minuses for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting because if it's a digital universe, then you might have better luck with a digital camera.
Yeah.
If it's a digital universe, it might not matter how.
But
you
if
take
it's
the
not,
picture.
if it's not even, there's no way to know if you. I guess if there's because you're not taking an equal amount. You're probably taking way more pictures with your digital, so there's no way to tell for sure if there's a change in the rate of occurrence.
Right. And yeah, but there's also that romantic kind of view of like film being this like analog substance that you have to activate, like with the, because you're actually using a material that has to be activated rather than, a chip. I guess, some people think film is more interesting to be using because of that.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Literally steals your soul.
Yeah. So let's get into the ectoplasm a little bit. So for people that don't know that's actually like not just from Ghostbusters, but they've been talking about ectoplasm for a while. Is there like a history of people seeing that as well and photographing that? And how did you get involved at trying to hunt that down?
Yeah, the ectoplasm is a very bizarre topic. I first, became aware of it or interested in it because I started seeing, they started telling me about the spirit photography history, and I found the early pictures of the mediums who were producing ectoplasm. And if you've never seen these images before, I think there's some of the most absurd and strange and uniquely disturbing pictures within the history of photography. You have women literally sewn into body bags with like white substance oozing out of their orifices, or half naked, or totally. I mean, they're really wild, and the substance looks like cheesecloth or
Thick
sometimes
smoke,
it looks
maybe,
like smoke. Sometimes it looks like blankets. Sometimes it looks like it's got a two-dimensional picture stuck within it. I mean, they're really, really bizarre pictures, really bizarre. And, streaming out of their nose or ears. And there were male mediums too. There's a lot, you can find a lot of pictures of male mediums too with ectoplasm streaming out. And I wanted to know what ectoplasm was, because even though and the seances that I was attending, I wasn't seeing ectoplasm, but the spiritualists I was meeting, they believed in the reality of ectoplasm. So I had to totally research this and figure out what the heck was going on with ectoplasm. And so ectoplasm it's a substance. It's actually named by Charles Richet, who's a Nobel laureate in medicine. I think he coined the term in the late 1890s after they were studying the medium Eusebia Palladino. And she used to have this this hand that creeped out that was very creepy. And there's a lot of talk about the ether, like the spiritual ether. So they suppose that maybe this hand was being produced by this substance called ectoplasm, which means outside formed. So for spiritualists, ectoplasm is a material, like it's a paradoxical substance. It's something that's spiritual and material at the same time. It bridges life and death. It bridges the material and the spiritual realms. And so it's like a substance of life. And they often kind of compare it to like semen or, vomit or menstruation, or it's supposed to smell like these bodily other substances. And, they early on, they talked about the birth of ectoplasm and then compared it to like childbirth. And, there were, it was very dramatic. A lot of mediums would convulse while they produced it. So it's this very bizarre topic. And it's also like the images are so ridiculous. Like they look so
over the top
and phony, but at the same time spooky. And the same time, there's just something about them that is just really, I don't know, uniquely shocking, I think.
Is it mainly photographed from a live person, or is it seen by the naked eye in live and dead people, or what's the gist of how it's mainly spotted?
Well, I mean, when you read the initial, like, Richer has, and this is a Nobel laureate in medicine. He's describing ectoplasm as at this steam that slowly builds and like morphs into a form and then seemingly comes to life and creeps out of the medium's body out into the floor and like can move and touch you. And he seems completely convinced in some of his accounts that this was a real thing. And then you have the pictures, which, the reality or the visual of the pictures actually goes against many of these reports. I mean, if you go back and read like the early reports of the ectoplasm, it's just, seeing the two side by reading that and then seeing the pictures, it just doesn't compute. And so then I think as the pictures started to be early ectoplasm pictures like 1910, and, ectoplasm then started to appear in other seance rooms. It was kind of like, the pictures kind of create the phenomena. And, a parapsychologist might say, the problem with ectoplasm is you don't have cross-cultural evidence. Where is it in other cultures? And then, I've heard people argue that there is ectoplasm that's called it's used by the shamans, where they use their own phlegm to kind of do healing. And there's also like the argument that maybe ectoplasm, like the images, is kind of like serves the purposes as certain paintings did for Catholic saints, where they used it as like a point of focus in order to do the feet, if I'm making sense.
Yep.
I don't know.
Ooh, the feet. Ooh, I want to come back to that. Make sure I don't forget.
Okay. That's super interesting.
At the end,
so what about recent times in ectoplasm? I mean, did some of these mediums that have they experienced it themselves, or did it sort of disappear in the earlier decades?
A lot of mediums told me they did experience it themselves. I started to go into as many situations as possible where people told me ectoplasm was going to appear. Early on, I realized that ectoplasm was a fluid term, and that, you could go to a seance, say with a medium, and they would say, oh, the ectoplasm is going to do something here. And you realize they're talking about an invisible ectoplasm that, maybe creates hypnotic effects or changes in temperature or these subjective kind of sensory effects. And then I finally did meet some mediums where it's like, no, they really were talking about like the white streams that you see in the vintage images. And it's actually becoming, for a long time, I couldn't find it. And that's a lot of spiritualists denounced ectoplasm. There's many accounts. I don't know, there's a book too. One of my favorite examples of this is this book called The Psychic Mafia that came out in 1977. This medium, Lamar Keene, talks about how they were all faking ectoplasm at the spiritualist camp and how they got busted. And, spiritualists said, why do we need this? It just causes people, it's ripe for fraud.
It's another, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's two kind of ways of thinking about it within spiritualism. There's spiritualists who no, the way forward is the clairvoyant mediumship, the mediumship you do in a white room. We don't need any of this dark room stuff. That's backwards. That's the old way. And then you have the other people who are trying to bring all these practices back and saying, no, this has been part of spiritualism since the beginning. And it actually, we need to be doing this. And this is another aspect of our belief to create this physical link between life and death. And that's what we should be focusing on. It's actually, there's a movement within spiritualism called the New Age of Physical Mediumship, and it's very controversial. It really divides the spiritualists that still exist, I think, in their opinions.
Wow, it's every movement is getting divided. Every thing is getting divided. I mean, whatever community
the country,
it is, it's
the world,
it's
psychic community.
I mean, in some ways, maybe people are gathering with their like minds, and it's good that you have people focusing on different things. I mean, I could see the ectoplasm thing being an important part of it. I mean, I was thinking about how we can change water with emotions. Maybe like that's a way that things are communicating through steam, like, steam, thick steam or something. Like it's just another form of water or something.
It's all the negativity in there.
Well, it could be the positivity, maybe.
The positivity comes out of your mouth looking like that? I don't think so. Well, but you had touched on feet, because you hear those old stories about people putting potatoes on their feet. And like if you do that overnight and sleep when you wake up, everyone's shaking their heads at me. And when you wake up in the morning, the potatoes are like black and gross and like, and Graham, you have that
like
little
that foot
device
detox.
that you put
I was
your
thinking
fit in,
maybe
and
that's
it sucks the
ectoplasm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Is that some sort of rudimentary ectoplasm that, people who aren't the spawn of Satan, we just have a little bit in us? Or, like, I don't know. But it seems as when you said feet, it made me think of those people seem to be able to do these crazy detoxes through the bottom of their feet, sucking things out.
I've never heard of the potato thing.
I think it's potatoes, yeah. Oh, it might be onions. Yeah, it could be onions. But it's something you put on your feet. And then, like, Graham's got this machine that you put your feet in. And, like, within, like, a minute when you turn it on, the water
it takes a couple minutes.
Disgusting.
It takes a couple minutes.
And your feet are, like, clean going into it. You know what I mean? So it seems like it's doing something.
Yeah, it's pulling out some stuff, like a lot of gross stuff, which could be considered... Looks like, it's not it's usually different colors, so it's hard to compare it to ectoplasm, but...
Look, when I started typing potatoes on, it said feet when sick.
Oh, okay, so it's not a spiritualism thing, it's an old healing ritual form type thing.
Well, what's the difference?
Oh, there's some overlap probably, but maybe they're not using potatoes when they've got spirits.
Well,
This is a physical detox.
But maybe ectoplasm makes you sick.
They say ectoplasm is for healing, that it brings about healing, usually. I mean, it depends also, too. This is a term that you could ask 10 people about ectoplasm, and 10 people might give you a different kind of interpretation or rules for ectoplasm. It's said to be light sensitive and that, you can't photograph it, but yet the early pictures are like blasted with light, or that you can kill a medium if you touch them with ectoplasm. If you turn on the lights, you can kill the medium. I don't know. Ectoplasm it's just really such a wild topic.
What does Dan Aykroyd say about it?
Yeah, that's well, I don't know. I'm so thankful that he used the term in Ghostbusters, because that's usually where when people haven't heard it, I could say, the movie Ghostbusters. But yeah, he is a spiritualist. He's a 4th generation spiritualist. So I think he believes in the reality of ectoplasm. I know he's interested in it. He knows the whole history of spirit photography. He thinks some of the images are fake and some of them are real, I think. Yeah. He and I talked a little bit about that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he's going to do the forward for my book.
Nice.
I don't know him very well, but we've been able to have a few, I've asked him a few things and he's always been really helpful.
I've been trying to get on the show for like 2 years, but he never responds.
Oh, really?
That's so funny because I just...
Next time you talk to him, put in a good word for us. Tell him we're good guys.
I listened to a UFO researcher too. Was it Walter Bosley that we just had on that bumped into Aykroyd? And they chatted a little bit about UFOs. I think it was him. Or who else was it? Yeah, it's pretty funny because he's into that too. That's awesome.
Yeah, Canadian boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's such a great guy. He really is.
What's the other two are going up north to Edmonton here right away.
Bob and Doug?
Yeah. No, just Bob, I think. Bob and it might be Dan Aykroyd.
Bob McKenzie and Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
Is Dan going to be Doug and they're doing Bob and Doug again?
No, they're
or
not
something?
doing Bob and Doug. It's just random, yeah.
Have you heard of them, Shannon, at all? They're Bob and Doug McKenzie. They're Canadian.
Oh,
Canadian
yeah. Maybe not.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing, yeah.
They made a movie about... Yeah, exactly. They made a movie about beer and And
no.
they talk
yeah,
like a couple stoner Canadians. We've been.
Oh yeah, no. I totally know. What's the movie?
Strange Brew.
Strange Brew. Yes, of course. Yes.
You good old classic Canadian.
Yeah.
Great movie.
So have you found it? Like, so where are you at with the ectoplasm thing then? Have you satisfied your search or?
Okay, so on my site, so there's basically I have two little photo essays going about ectoplasm, and one is with there's mediums who I meet who say that they're using ectoplasm, but the ectoplasm is invisible. And I actually have two weird stories with one, the same medium. His name is Gordon Garforth, and he is in England. And he told me when I first met him, I use ectoplasm and it changes the shape of my hands and my face. And when I first meet him, I'm pretty skeptical like that I'm ever going to see something like this from him, because what I was encountering mostly was that people tell me ectoplasm was going to change something, and it was a very subjective experience, and people in the room were seeing it and I wasn't. So I said, okay, well, I'll bring my camera and I'll try to photograph you. And so the first thing, we went into a red light seance, and it was a dark room, tiny red light on. I was sitting in the front row. I was about 6 feet away from him. And his wife, he goes into a trance, and it's 20 minutes in, and his wife, who's like kind of the master of ceremonies, or, his guides, his seances, says, okay, Gordon's going to work with the ectoplasm now, and it's going to change his hands. And so he's wearing a short sleeve shirt, and he took his hand and he stuck it out and he moved it in front of his body. And this hand just looked like it effortlessly skipped into like a gigantic hand. And it was the most magical thing I have ever seen. It was crazy. I don't know how he did it. I actually screamed when this happened. And like, it's a very, like, you're totally not supposed to do that in a seance. It's so rude. And you're really not. It's really bad. And, cause you can get the medium out of a trance if you do something like that. So,
then you could break the cord. You could put him in real danger, couldn't you?
Yes. So I was really a jerk for screaming, but I was really, really shocked by this. And then everybody else in the room started screaming too. And I couldn't tell if they were screaming because I was screaming, or were they screaming because they saw this big hand. And then he pulled the hand back and it was gone. And I was convinced that I hypnotically rendered this hand because it was like a low light situation, and I was told I was going to see a hand, and I was certain that I would see the images on my camera and there'd be a small hand. But I saw him with this gigantic hand, and it looked different in the picture than it did with my eyes. But a lot of people say it looks like a glove or a prosthetic. But it definitely was not that. Some people have said it's probably an optical illusion with a light. I mean, when I saw it happen, if it was a magic trick, it was like David Copperfield elegant magic trick. It was crazy. And the photo's mysterious. Like, you have to decide for yourself as a viewer what happened. So that happened with Gordon, but then the other thing that happened was weirder. And I know I have this one on my site. So he went into like a trance, an impromptu trance. So we were in a sanctuary, and the only light there was like this tiny green security light, and he went into a trance, and I started taking pictures, and they were really long exposures because it was like this huge room lit by this tiny green light. And he said, ectoplasm changes his face. So I took these pictures of him, and of course they're long exposures, but in a lot of them he looked really different. Like, he looked like different people, right? And so I showed him these images, and there was one picture of him where he had like this tiny mustache, and I actually thought it looked a little bit like Hitler. So I was like really creeped out by it, and I didn't want to show it to him. I was like, I can't show him this picture. But I ended up showing it to him because it was part of it. And he's like, oh, that picture, I love that picture. And I was like, really? I was like, why does he like this picture where he looks really scary, he sort of looks like Hitler? And then he took me to his house, and he showed me a picture of his great grandfather, and I swear it looked exactly like him in the picture.
Wow.
So I usually pair them up on my website, and he doesn't wear glasses and he doesn't have a mustache. It's just like a weird, and I understand it's a long exposure, but it's very bizarre when you see them together. It's a very bizarre photographic synchronicity, and that was explained to me as, okay, that's ectoplasm, or some people say it's photoplasm when it's ectoplasm that only works with the photograph. It depends again on the person you're talking to, but so there's that type of ectoplasm, and then there is the literal ectoplasm that you see, that everybody in the room sees as white streams. And I've also been working with mediums who use that type as well, and that's different. That's definitely different.
Have you seen any of that at all?
Yeah, there's the most famous and controversial medium right now is a man named Kai Mugi, and he's a German medium. And actually, the Society for Psychical Research, their magazine has recently had, he's been on the topic of 2 big debates on their cover. And, people are studying him and trying to see if he's real or not. And he is producing, images that are, like when you're in his seance, it looks exactly like, the feeling, I can only describe it as like, it feels like the vintage images are coming to life right before your eyes. It's like they even correspond and kind of resemble famous spirit photos. So a lot of people are debating, is he a shaman just putting forth visuals? Is this literal ectoplasm and he's really a spiritualist? Is he a magician? Is he a showman? Is he a fake? Is he real? All of these questions are now, being debated again. It's kind of like the same conversation is now happening around this German medium named Kai Mugi.
Have you met him before? Or are you going to...
Yeah, I've been photographing him, and as far as I know, I'm the only documentarian he's allowed to photograph him. And there are people he photographs his seances himself, or he has sitters, do the pictures and then he approves them. But as I'm the only ethnographer documentarian who's been allowed to photograph him.
Wow.
There's a filmmaker he did let film some of it, but he hasn't put anything out yet. So, but as far as I know, I'm the only person working with him right now. And I just went to Basel, Switzerland, because he's been going to Basel, Switzerland a lot, a place called Basler Sai. And he goes there, I think it's every 2 months, and it's mostly the same group of people. And he's doing full manifestations, which hasn't happened in spiritualism in 30 years, which means, it's like a spirit walking around the room. Or that's how he's presenting it as. And it's just really wild that it's really it seems like a lost practice that's now happening again through his mediumship.
Nice. Wow. So are you going to continue working on that?
Yeah. I'm supposed to go. Yeah, I'm pursuing it. I'm trying to tie the project together, but the ectoplasm has gotten just too interesting. So yeah, I've been documenting the Kai seances.
That's super interesting. So before we start wrapping it up, is there something that you want to mention before we let you go? Like how people can help support your work and other stuff you want to mention, that we might have glossed over?
Sure. I have a website. It's my name, shannontaggart.com, Taggart.
Yep. And
everything about the project is there, including, my book is on pre-sale right now. And my campaign's about half funded. And if you purchase the book via the pre-sale, you have your name written in as a patron, and you get updates. And the foreword will be written by Dan Aykroyd, and there's a lot of other great people writing essays too. The artist Tony Ausler, Eric Davis, the cultural critic, Constance de Jong, the artist, and there's possibly might be another essay or two, but. And I'll have some historical images. I'm going to really frame the project with some of this weird history. And I see my project as very much a project about spiritualism, but also a next chapter on this bizarre practice of photographing spiritualism. And my own experiments will be in there. And it's a lot of, it's going to be like 350 pages of full color. So
nice. Well, that's good. I'm gonna subscribe from Grimerica here, and we'll get a book for the studio for sure. We'll pledge something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Send me the
We'll
link
get-
and
yeah.
set it all
I
up.
think it's really important work right now, especially, I don't know, I feel like it's opening up again, and it's good to have somebody like yourself sort of carrying the flag.
Thank you. And thanks for having such an open forum to talk about it. Like, it's great to be able to discuss all of these themes in one podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and keep in touch and let us know how it all works out.
Ectoplastastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Take care, Shannon.
Ciao for now.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
That was our chat with Shannon Taggart. What do you think, buddy?
That was great. That was awesome. I'm inspired by orbs now.
Fucking
and
ectoplasm is
and-
gross.
Yeah,
it's
some
fucked up.
crazy pictures. Yeah, check out her site for sure. There's lots of stuff on there, and I'm inspired by that. Yeah, that's good.
I think there's something going on with the feet. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So check out Shannon's website. Pre-buy the book. Graham will have all the link in the show notes. The links in the show notes.
To all the stuff we talked about as well. Like,
She
I'll put some of
forgets.
that other stuff in there, and yeah, our book.
There'll be some stuff in there.
And then I think we'll put some of our pictures in the video and put it on YouTube for people to see as well.
Hopefully, we'll see what
Hopefully.
happens. Yeah.
Last time
that's
it
the
took me
plan,
a couple months. I did that once. Took me a couple months.
One time Graham took that on and it never actually really happened.
It did happen.
Not
What do you mean?
really. It was
Oh my God.
super shitty. Come
It's-
on.
Looking at it right now, there's all kinds of images on there. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It was with what's her name? Yeah.
beautiful.
No. It was,
No, this was with
Carmen Bolter.
the matriarch.
Carmen Bolter. Yeah.
Carmen Bolter, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, it took 3 months and it was
No,
just,
2 months.
It was bad.
No, it wasn't.
At the
What do you
time,
mean? You haven't even
our-
watched it. As if he would even watch it.
Our
I
video,
spliced all the pictures in there, and it
our
worked
video
out.
filming fucking skills were very rudimentary at the time. And Graham's editing skills were even more rudimentary, if you can believe it. But we'll see. I think this one will turn out much better. We got some video rocking. We got some better cameras. We got some expertise. Yeah, it'll be good. Big thanks for listening, guys. Do check out grimerica.ca/support. And those are kind of all the different options there. Sign up for one of those, a monthly, a weekly, or a yearly. Sign up for a Patreon, whatever fills your boots, as they say. But that's the support that kind of helps us be able to do these ventures with video and try and do, try and grow a little bit.
Yeah, man, we can't do it without the support.
We can't do it without the support.
We're shooting for what? 3% eventually, 4%.
Yeah.
We got like 1%
We haven't
support.
quite got 1% yet, but we'll get there. So do check out grimerica.ca/support, guys. Sign up for a monthly today. If you can't afford to support the show financially right now, check out the show notes. There's a list of like 5 things to do. Review the show, newsletter, do all that shit. And, you're helping out. You really are. Spam the show, send in your synchros and stuff like that. That all helps out too.
Yep.
The newsletter subscription, I think, is like, the newsletter subscription is about the same rate as the support.
Yeah.
So sign up for the newsletter too, motherfuckers. Grimerica.ca/news. I think that's about it. Got anything else?
Yeah, email, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff.
All that stuff is in the show notes.
Yeah.
Look at the
Great.
show notes.
Graham's DoBeDoBeDo list.
Graham's honey doobie list. Spam them at graham@grimerica.com. I think that's about it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Oh, if you could touch infinity, I think that your hand would fall. Ooh, all off. And we're gonna need all the purple in the world. And we're gonna need all the love in the world. In the race between the hare and the tortoise, I am the immortal tortoise. The immortal tortoise, yeah. dive into divinity, I think you'd come back in a flash with stories to tell. Coming out of your turtle shell to tell us of heaven and hell. Oh, and everything in between. Oh, and everything in between. Oh, and everything in between. And make your mama proud. And lend a hand, 'cause we're gonna need all the people in the world. Oh, and we're gonna need all the love in the world. In the world. Break it down. Ooh, wow. Break it down. 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 The timeless turtle says, love your fellow man. And the timeless turtle says, love your fellow man. And the timeless turtle says, love your fellow